Next, you will learn how to code some unit tests for category repository. In details, we will write some unit tests for creating some top-level categories, creating some subcategories, getting a category and its children, and printing categories in hierarchical form. And our test, we proceed the category information in the database like this, with two top-level categories are computers and electronics. And under computers, we have desktops, laptops, computer components, and memory under computer components. And we have cameras and smartphones as a subcategories under electronics. So let's create a new test class under the test directory in the Xiaomi backend project. So right click and new class, and we create a new test class under the package com.xiaomi.admin.category, and the class name is category repository test. Finish. Here we go. And because we create a Spring Data JPA test, so we need to use this annotation, data JPA test, and we need to use the annotation auto configure test database because we want to run the test against the real database, not the in-memory database which is used by default. So we specify the attribute replace equal none here. Then Spring Data JPA, we run the test against the real database, and we want to keep the data persisted into the database, so we use the annotation rollback with the property value false here. And here we need to have a reference to the category repository interface AutoWire category repository interface here repo. And the first test method, public void test, create root category. And we create a new category object, category equal new category. And for testing purpose, we need to create some constructors in this category entity class here before the getters and setters. Generate constructors using fields here, and we want to generate constructor for the field name. Generate, okay. Yeah, we create a new category object with the name is computers, and then we proceed this category object into the database via the repository interface here. Repo save category, and it returns a category object, category saved category here, and we assert this test method like this. Assert that saved category get id is greater than 0. Okay, and now let's run this first test method to persisting a top level category object, no parent. Okay, run as unit test. We got an error here. Let me see what the error is. Unexpected rollback exception. Here the error is not null property reference is null or transient. alias here. Alias must not be null, so we need to specify value for category alias. So here we modify the constructor to take an alias or set the alias same as the name. This alias equal name. Okay, and run the test again. No, sorry. We'll also need to set the value for image because image is also not be null here. Okay, so update the constructor here. This image equal default.png for testing purpose, and now we can run the test again. Okay, the test has been successful, you see, and in the console view it prints the SQL insert statement insert into the categories table here. Let me check in the database in MySQL Workbench. Select all rows from the categories table, and you can see we got a new row inserted here with the name computers alias computers ID1. Enable status by default is 0. Parent ID is null, meaning that this category doesn't have a parent, so it is a top level or root category. And let's update the test to proceed another category. Here we just change the name of the category to electronics. Okay, and run the test again. Okay, successful. Now let me check in the database, and we got the second row, which is for electronics here. Perfect. Next, we will write the second test method for creating some subcategories under computers and subcategories under electronics like this. So we need to update the entity class to have another constructor that takes a parent category. So here in this constructor we have the second parameter is the parent category, parent here, and we set the parent, this parent equal parent, and then we call the first constructor this name. This should be the first statement. Okay, and then we write the second test method here. Test create subcategory. And firstly, we need to retrieve to get the parent category by ID. So here we can create a new category object and passing the category ID, new category. So we need to create another constructor in the entity class that takes ID as the parameter. ID here. Okay, so in the database we have the category computers with the ID 1 and category electronics with ID 2 here. So here category ID 1, and then we get a new subcategory. Subcategory equal new, and we use this constructor that takes the name and then the parent. So this would be desktops, and proceed this subcategory object into the database repo save subcategory, saved category, and we use the same assert statement as the first test method. Okay, and now we can run this second test method, run as JUnit test. Okay, successful. Now let me check in the database. Here we got the third row inserted desktops, and note that the value for the parent ID column is now 1, which is the ID of the category computers here. Perfect. Then we can update the code to create the subcategory laptops and computer components. So we just change the name here to laptops, and another subcategory is this is laptops, and this is components, computer components. And we call the method repo save all here, laptops and components. Okay, and run this test method. Okay, successful. And let me check in the database. And you see we got 2 new categories, laptops and computer components. And the parent ID is 1 here, which is a computer here. Perfect. And then we need to create another subcategories, 2 subcategories for the category ID 2, which is electronics. And the first subcategory is cameras, and the second one is smartphones, cameras, smartphones. Okay, and run this test method again. Okay, successful. And let me check in the database. And we got another 2 rows inserted here for cameras and smartphones. And both these categories have the parent ID is 2, which is the category electronics here. Correct. And lastly, I want to create a new subcategory memory under computer components like this. So in the database, the computer components category has the ID 5 here. So we update the code like this, passing the ID 5 to the constructor. And the subcategory name is memory subcategory, and we call repo save category subcategory here. And we use the same assertion statement. Okay, and run this test method. Okay, successful. And let me check in the categories table here. And we got the new row memory inserted here with the parent ID is 5. That refers to computer components here. Perfect. Next, we will code the third test method for getting a category and print its children. Okay, so the third test method, test get category, and we get a category based on its ID. Category equal. We use the method of the category repository file by ID method here, and passing the ID 1, which is the ID of the category computers, and get, and we print out the name of this category get name. and then we iterate through each subcategory in this category. You got children here, children, and we iterate through each subcategory in this children. For category subcategory in children, and then we print the name of the subcategory. Subcategory get name, and for this test method we just assert that the size of the children is greater than 0. Children size is greater than 0. Okay, and run this test method. Test get category. Okay, we got an error. Let me see what the error is about. No default constructor for entity category. So we need to create an empty constructor for this entity class. Okay, and run the test method again. Okay, successful, and now you can see it prints desktops, computer components, laptops, which has a subcategories of computers here. So far so good. And you can notice that it doesn't bring the category memory, which is under computer components here, because we don't have the recursive code to print all the subcategories of subcategories. It's just print the first level subcategories. Now let's update the test method to print the children of the category electronics, which has ID 2 here, and run the test method again. Okay, you see now it prints electronics and then cameras and smartphones, exactly the subcategories of electronics. Perfect. And lastly, I will show you how to write another test method for printing all the categories in a hierarchical form like this. Okay, so the next test method, the last one in this lecture, test print categories, test print hierarchical categories. Firstly, we need to retrieve all the categories from the database, so we can call the method file all of the repository here. Categories here, and then we iterate to each category for category root category in this categories, and we check a root category by examining the parent object of this category. So we check if sorry, this should be subcategory. This if sub category get parent equal no, then this is a top level or root category. Then we print out the name. Subcategory get name. This should be just category. Okay. And then for this top level category or root category, we need to iterate to each children. So here we get the children of this category. We get children, which is a set collection here. And then we iterate to each children for category subcategory in this children. And then we print out the name. Subcategory get name. And for printing the categories in a hierarchical format, we use two dashes before the name for one level here, two dashes. And now we can run this test method to print the categories and subcategories at the first level. First level subcategories. Okay, and to see the output clearly, I need to disable printing SQL statements. Okay, so update the application properties here. Show SQL. No, we need to update. We need to use the attribute in the test class here. For the annotation data JPA test, show SQL equal false here, and then run the test again. Now we see only the names of the categories without SQL statements. And you see, here you see it prints computers, laptops, desktops, computer components, electronics, smartphones, and cameras. So far so good. That's missing the memory category, which is under computer components. So we need to write some additional code for showing all subcategories of subcategories. Okay, so here in the for each loop here, we need to print the children of each subcategory. So we need to have a private method here for the recursive algorithm here. Print children. And this method takes some parameters. The first one is a parent, and the second one is the sublevel. And we copy and paste the for each loop here. And for each subcategory under the parent category here, we print the name. And for the dashes indicating the sub level, we need to write some additional code here. Here we increase the sub level by 1. New sub level equal sub level plus 1. And before printing the name of the subcategory, we print the dashes indicating the sub-levels. So here we use another for loop, integer I equal 0. I less than the new sub-level I plus plus, and then we print the dashes without the new line character here. Okay. And then we print the category name. Okay. And then we call the method print children itself to perform the recursive algorithm. Here we need to iterate to each subcategory in the children of the parent category. Get children here. Children here. And then for recursive algorithm, we call the method itself print children and passing the parent which is a subcategory here, and the new sublevel here. Okay, and we call print children in the first in this for loop here, and passing the parent is a subcategory here, and the sublevel is just 1. Okay, that's it, and now run the test method again. Okay, now you can see it prints computer components and memory under computer components, laptops, desktop, electronics, cameras, and smartphones. And to verify the algorithm we have coded, I need to add some more subcategories, for example, to laptops and to smartphones. So I will update the second test method here that creates a subcategory here. Okay, so I will positing a new subcategory under laptops with the ID 4 here. So the ID of the parent is 4, and the subcategory name is gaming laptops. Okay, that's it, and run this test method. Okay, successful. And the next subcategory is under smartphones here. And smartphones category has ID 7. ID 7 here, and the subcategory name is iPhone. Okay, and run this test method again. Run. Okay, perfect. And then we run the test method to print the hierarchical categories here. Okay, then you see it prints gaming laptops under laptops here, memory under computer components here, perfect, and iPhone under smartphones here, perfect.